You know, my T-Rexcellent fans, I'm starting to realize that I actually have an affinity for films that tend to underperform or are not usually gotten by the general public. Films such as Godzilla 1998, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and the movie that we're talking about today, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, to get the biasness out of the way right from the start, I really love this movie. I'm aware that it underperformed, and I'm aware that a lot of people tend to have a few issues with it, but the thing is, for me, this is the movie that made me realize that Legendary's MonsterVerse movies would become a much more wider universe, that there was a connection to it. Yes, we did have a little teaser of Godzilla vs. Kong at the end of Kong Skull Island, but the thing is, I saw that much later than a lot of other people. When this came out, it made me realize, wow, the MonsterVerse is actually a universe, and it could actually rival the likes of Marvel one day, here's hoping. But aside from that, I think it's a very good story in general. It has a lot of references to previous Godzilla and giant monster movies, which is someone who enjoys a good amount of fan service in his films. That is definitely a point in the right direction. But even regarding the tributes to the long-standing fans, this is just a very well-told story. It has the largest collection of famous Toho monsters in any MonsterVerse movie so far. This film not only shows the return of Godzilla, but it also has a cameo of Kong. It is also the grand entrance of the likes of Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan into the MonsterVerse, along with many other new titans. Speaking of the titans themselves, I really love the designs of all of the kaiju in this movie. Rodan, Mothra, Ghidorah, and even Godzilla, they have all gotten an upgrade in appearance, and this is probably the best they've all looked in the MonsterVerse to date. Only Godzilla vs. Kong probably had better models, and to be fair, only Godzilla and Kong really showed up in that movie. That aside, the action sequences are amazing. Now, one criticism this movie gets is that there's too much focus on the monsters. Now, in Godzilla 2014, they said there wasn't enough focus on the monsters, so I really do not understand the argument here. This is exactly what you want from a giant monster movie. The monsters are on stage front and center for at least half of the running time, which is really all you could ask from a giant monster movie. The battles are amazing. The special effects are phenomenal. This really does feel like the biggest movie in the MonsterVerse to date. As for the human characters, though, I'll admit I do find most of them a bit lackluster. Now, keep in mind, no one is bad. All of the actors do a great job in this movie. Them being lackluster is simply a consequence of being in a giant monster movie. The focus is on the monsters, which it should be. Now, there are two standouts to me. First is Charles Dance's portrayal of Alan Jonah, the main human antagonist of the movie. He gives a very classical Taiwanese portrayal of the character. And of course, the character everyone remembers from this movie, Dr. Hezuro Shirazawa, played by Ken Watanabe. In particular, it's this character's relationship with Godzilla that really makes this movie more than just a giant monster movie, but something much more deeper and philosophical. And I'm not ashamed to admit there were times where I actually cried, in particular to one scene. Well, I don't want to spoil what happens, just get your tissues ready, folks. That being said, though, all that aside, Godzilla King of the Monsters is an underappreciated magnum opus and a movie that you should definitely check out if you haven't already.